What is up? On this episode, I have sports broadcaster Brodie Brazil. He is the pregame, postgame host for the San Jose Sharks and the Oakland A's. I am absolutely so pumped on this episode. I am not going to lie, I was a little bit nervous because, I'm pretty new to the whole podcast game, and this is, something that he does, not just podcasts, but, talking on live TV and everything like that. I was like, okay, I better step up my game. But it came out of nowhere, and let's see, a little over a day ago, put out a tweet saying, I think it would be rad to have at Brodie MBCS on my podcast. Just threw it up there. Maybe he liked it, whatever. And, he liked it. And within 15 minutes, he direct messaged me saying, let's set it up. Thumbs up emoji. I was like, oh, okay, that worked. Okay, sweet. Let's do it. And I was like, all right, I got to do it as soon as possible. But, here we are. It just was an absolute pleasure having Brodie on the podcast. I thank him so much again for taking time out of his day to talk to me. And, we chatted about Sharks hockey, A's baseball, him being a commercial pilot, and some beers, of course. Shout out to Altamont Beers. The best stuff ever, for sure. Hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. So, let's get into it, shall we? Brodie Brazil, everyone. Let's go. Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me all right?
I got you.
Wow, this sound quality is amazing. Best Skype audio I've ever heard.
Based on what I've invested in all this stuff, it better be.
Yeah, I saw. I remember seeing on your Instagram when you first posted about your in-home studio. I at first thought that was something from the NBC studios because it looked so professional. I was like, damn.
Yeah, most people hit me up and they're like, dude, did you start going back to work already?
Well, that was my thought.
I probably about 2 summers ago, just we have a little side house here at our house, and I think the previous owner had made it for kids, and so I just gutted it. And over the years, I've added sound insulation, blocked out all the lights, added in my own lighting. So, my background's production. So I've made it the studio that I wanted.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Mostly for YouTube and social stuff and podcasts.
Awesome.
But I'm fortunate to have it. And I just kept adding stuff. And then when all this stuff hit, man, I was like, wow, this is going to come in handy if we can start utilizing it. So.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And before we go on, I got my brother here. He's kind of like my official
Cool.
podcast engineer / Googler.
What's his name?
His name is Nick. He's mic'd up as well. Hey
Nick, how are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm more in tune with hockey, and he's the baseball guy, so he might have some athletics.
Yeah,
I can get something for both of you guys then.
So.
Yeah, firing from all angles here.
Where are you guys at?
We're in Sunnyvale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. Just born and raised Bay Area hockey. Like I mentioned, I think it was on Twitter or something, wherever we were connecting, that I grew up playing in hockey and all that, and as well as baseball, but kind of fell out of the baseball and continued with hockey. San Jose Junior Sharks and
cool.
Cupertino Cougars and all that fun stuff. So
how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 28. And then
okay, so that's the cool thing is people in your age demographic. I'm only 11 or so years older, but the difference in my growing up versus your growing up was that there was a Junior Sharks, or there is a Junior Sharks, and there is ice rinks and stuff. And I loved watching hockey, and I learned how to skate on rollerblades and all that stuff in the front driveway growing up, but just wasn't access to it. So I always tell kids, younger kids especially now, you're so fortunate to be in this situation where you can play and get coached and buy equipment and all that stuff. So.
That's where I started before ice hockey. I was in doing roller hockey. It was over in San Jose. It's close to. It used to be Logitech Ice. Is it Solar for America now? I forget.
Yeah.
So. Just down the road at the fairgrounds, there used to be
the Rollin' Ice.
Yeah,
or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So that's where I started playing for the Patriots roller hockey, and
cool.
I can't remember my age. I probably should have asked my parents, but. Probably close enough.
Dig up some photos.
Yeah.
Now.
Oh, I got plenty of photos for sure. looking back,
Sweet.
I'm like, geez, I could barely walk, let alone skate. So it was fun. Yeah.
Sweet. No,
Yeah.
that's great. I'm glad we connected, and I'll save it for the actual recording, but why the heck do you want to talk to me? But maybe we'll get to that.
Well, I mean, I will say, I mean, since we started, I've been recording already. So, I mean, who knows? I might have this in the intro. I mean,
Oh, got it.
I
Got
don't
it. All right.
necessarily cut anything out. I like to keep things kind of
Got it. Okay.
raw and fun like that, unless some crazy stuff happens. And I've never had anyone ask me to cut anything out, so that's good. So
Yeah. I generally won't say it if I didn't feel like it was safe. You know?
Right? Yeah, exactly. So, but going on what you said, it's like, why do I want to talk to you? It's like, I mean, obviously, growing up playing hockey and diehard Sharks fan. Obviously, I've seen you on TV, post game, all that fun stuff, and I wanted to try and talk to someone that's so embedded in the sport that I love, and also baseball. I grew up playing baseball as well, but I just randomly did that tweet, and I was like, hey, it'd be cool to have Brodie Brazil on the podcast, and then within like 30 minutes, you liked my tweet and DM'd me, and I was like, oh, okay. Sure, I guess we're doing
I just
this.
happened to be on the social at the same time. It's funny, especially being a dad now. I mean, my time on social media, it's like in a cluster.
Yeah.
I'll just go on there, catch up with everything I need to, put the phone down, be gone with it for a couple hours.
Oh,
so it's also interesting too. I seem to miss a lot of stuff between, Instagram, Twitter. I've kind of gotten away from Facebook, but text messages, 2 email accounts, just text messages all over the place. Sometimes it gets overwhelming, and I actually feel really bad sometimes when I miss something. And look, it doesn't have to be me. I think a lot of people deal with just overwhelming amounts of communication, like in 2020, especially these days. But so I kind of feel bad sometimes if I miss a message, or if I miss an opportunity, or miss a connection with somebody that, 5 days later, I was like, I finally see it. Like, oops,
like,
sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, I feel you. Especially with me for emails. I'm like, all right, Best Buy, like, I get it. Like, chill out. Like, stop sending me these. Like, William Sonoma, like, I like your stuff, but I don't need an email.
I see where you shop now. I'm kind of getting a mental picture of, where you might be spending your money.
Guitar Center, Sweetwater, William Sonoma, all that fun stuff. I like to cook.
Do you have gear
hockey.
Acquisition syndrome? Is that what you have?
Probably. Who knows?
It's like when you love the tech so much that you probably have too much. I suffer from that.
I would say so. I mean, also, this podcast is pretty new. I started it like the first week of 2020. And so I'm fairly new at it, always upgrading gear. So the Guitar Center sales and the Sweetwater sales, I'm always like, all right, what do you guys got for me? Let's go. But aside from that, I'm a photographer, videographer, and I've been doing that for about a decade now. So, you got that gear side of the cameras and all that fun, expensive gear.
Yeah.
And now I got to spend, all this money on, upgrading mics and getting boards and all that fun stuff and learning.
They say you can just do a podcast with your iPhone. And it is true, but come on, let's be honest.
Right.
Production value.
Yeah, but I guess that goes into the the techie side of me wanting to just get right now I have just some Rode pod mics, but I gotta get that Shure SM7B and but hey, those are some pretty pennies right there, so I
got one of those actually.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, the SM7B. You gotta get a good preamp to go with that mic.
Yeah,
now we're getting geeky. We just turned a corner here.
Oh, I'm all
mic
about
talk.
it. I'm all about it. Yeah, I got the I'm starting off, like I said, I just started this year, so eventually would obviously love to have a home studio like what you have. So I'm gonna have to pick your brain off the podcast sometime with some gear talk. But I just have the Rodecaster Pro.
Yeah, that's a good piece of kit. I mean, Rode's a great brand, and you know what? Like, you can get great value out of that board, and the mics come with it, like a little package.
I didn't get the package. I at first started with like my first podcast. Best Buy went and got the Yeti, the blue Yeti,
the Yeti,
and that's how I started. And then right, and then later I was using some it's a Shure. It definitely was not meant for like voice recording. I think it was the I forget what it was, but
it's like the SM57 maybe.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. So that was just like
pencil thin type mic, or
exactly, yeah. And I was like, found out real soon that I was like, okay, this is not proper for this. Like, upgrade time.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you here's my best advice and here's the warning. You're going to go through layers of upgrading until you finally get
Mm-hmm.
to your end game. Some would say just go straight to your end game and skip all those layers. But I would also say too, if you're in this for the long run, yeah, save up, get the SM7B when you're ready for it. And
Oh
then,
yeah.
if you treat your room properly and you want to get that next different type of sound, get the condenser mic and just,
Of
keep going
course.
from there. I'm looking at 3 generations of mics over here in the corner of this home studio that I will still use in the right situation. But
Yeah.
that's what happens. That's the gear acquisition syndrome, man. I'm telling you.
Man, I gotta look more into that because I'm pretty sure I have that for sure.
Yeah, you
But
got the symptoms.
oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, thanks I appreciate, obviously you reaching out to me and like my tweet and
Yeah,
DMing me and obviously taking time out of your Friday to do this and
my pleasure.
yeah. And kind of going into, the crazy times we're living in, like besides doing the podcast, I think was it Brodie Brazil Connected, I believe, your podcast?
Yeah, I got to be honest. You put a lot of effort into your podcast. I'm kind of doing it as a thing right now, and I always say I want to put more time and attention into it. So hence, even the name is kind of like nah right now.
But I mean, like just having your name, I mean, like even if you just had it as your name, like, and then you had, Connected, it all makes sense. I mean, you
Yeah.
are a personality on your own. Like if you named it something completely different, like, I can't off the top of my head other podcasts, but
Used to be called the Bro Show back in the day, and then I was like,
oh
you know what, this
yeah,
sounds a little bit too bro-y, and it sounds like it just doesn't fit maybe
I
the
don't
stuff
know.
that I'd be talking about or the people I'd be talking
I
to.
don't know, man.
It's
Bring it
catchy.
back. Bring it back. I was
The bro game is strong.
yeah. I mean, I forget which episode it was. I should have written it down, but yesterday I was listening to a few of the podcasts, like Kyle McLaren, Doug Wilson, and then it was something with A's and beers.
Oh yeah.
You guys were
Yeah,
drinking.
that was one of my buddies, Casey Pratt, who used to work with us at NBC. He now works at ABC7 in San Francisco. And one day he came over. Man, those were the days when other people could come over to your house.
I know,
And
what's that like? Jeez.
yeah, we cracked some beers, and probably for about 2 hours we talked A's, and we split it up into 2 episodes.
Oh, cool.
So that's more of the stuff I'd like to do. And it just either doesn't. Well, now, I mean, it's less possible to have somebody with you like that. But a lot of times I'll just take an interview and put it on the podcast just as another way for somebody who might listen to it that way,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't really promote the podcast the right way or enough. So like I said, it's there and it exists. I wish I should put more of a full steam into it. 'Cause it's YouTube, Instagram. I'm trying to be way better at.
Yeah.
Twitter. I mean, gosh,
So
the platform, it's almost like fatiguing, sometimes.
Oh yeah. I'm so backlogged. I mean, this is episode 61 and I think I stopped putting videos on YouTube because I'm not filming yet. So I was doing like the photo with a little audio waveform and I think I stopped at like 15. So I'm way behind. So that's going to suck backtracking. But there's so much, like.
Yeah,
like you
but that
said.
makes sense too, right? To like, if you're going to do something, if you're going to do an interview, spread it out across all platforms. Like make the video of it, put the audio on the podcast, take a clip and put it on Instagram. That's like true, content creation right there.
Yeah.
You're not doing it for one stage. You're doing it once for 5 stages,
Yeah. Oh yeah. And a couple of times. Well, at least me, like most of the podcasts I'll post it the day I, put the episode live and then like let it breathe for a little bit. All right, repost
Right.
again. And then you have the
Right.
new episode. La, la, la. It goes on forever, but it's been fun.
Exactly.
It's been fun. Just going off that one episode where you guys are drinking beers, I was listening at work and I got so excited because it's my favorite beer, the Altamont.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely
It's great,
love
great
it.
people over there.
Oh yeah, they're in I think Livermore, I believe. So kind of close.
It's they are in Livermore, and I have to admit, even from where I live, and I drive out to go see them, they're kind of way off the freeway in Livermore too.
Okay.
I don't want to look. What I'm saying is, it's for a lot of people in the Bay Area, depending where you're at, it may not be like right around the corner from you to go visit their tap room, but well worth it. I mean, and I think they just remodeled it about a year or two ago. Just
Oh, okay.
awesome place, awesome beers, awesome people. So when that's appropriate for you to go out there, you should.
I definitely got to. Yeah, my before moving on, I just wanted because I wanted to bring that up. I got just way too excited because I'm a big beer drinker. Love beer, those strong hoppy IPAs. So that Maui
Nice.
Wowie one, Altamont, is my go-to.
Yeah,
So
I like that one.
yeah. So kind of going off. I mean, like, what's been like? It's I think 16 weeks, right, since hockey and baseball have been kind of canned for the moment. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you? I mean, like I mentioned, you have the podcast, but as far as like just normal life, like what are you doing? Like I see you got like a Peloton, like you're getting jacked. I'm sure getting shredded. Nothing to do. Like what do you?
Great questions.
Yeah. What are you up to?
So I have to be honest, being a dad of our son is almost 3 now, and it just that takes up for those listening who are parents, you instantly know what I'm saying. It takes up so much of your time. And I say that, we have one child, and it's me and my wife at home a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get to my work responsibilities in just a second, but man, the days just go by when he's at his age, constantly running around. We're having lunch, we're scooter riding, we're going to the pool. Like it's a lot of different things that just consume your day. So that alone, just me being here to help my wife and keep our house going. I mean, it's funny. During all this, I hear some friends and I see people talking about, I'm so bored, I don't know what to do with my time. And I'm the exact reverse of that a lot. I'm like, I don't have a free moment. I've literally watched less than 10 hours of TV this entire time. Wow. I don't know. I watched most of the Jordan. It's more than that. I watched most of the Jordan documentary, and I just watched all 4 games of the '89 World Series the last 4 nights on replay. But yeah, it's just so busy. So there's that, and then the other side of it is just the home studio stuff. And one of the biggest assets I've had through work is 2 things: this home studio where I can record stuff and send it in and have it look, passable as almost like I'm in a real studio. That plus just connections to athletes I cover. And by that, I mean relationships and phone numbers. Mm-hmm. And so call these guys up or really shoot them a text. Hey, can we do an interview for NBC? Take 15 minutes. I'll FaceTime you. Here's kind of what we'll talk about. Maybe you let me know. And almost everybody was instantly in. So I think we did 50 or 60 interviews with A's and Sharks players. And we had those on our website and their YouTube channel and all that stuff. So
nice.
It's crazy too, because here I am, when I set up these interviews, I'm the booker, I'm the engineer, the cameraman, the audio person, the producer, the
payroll,
I hate the word talent, but everything. And then I come back, I piece it all together, I edit it, I compress the video file, I write a little piece with it, I send it in. So getting one, 20-minute interview cut and done and sent in is literally like a full day's worth of work.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas when I go to work, 20-minute interview takes 25 minutes.
Yeah, because you don't have to do anything else.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, everything's been, kind of tedious in that way, but I've been getting stuff done and trying to stay, connected to things. And now that, the Shark season is well done, but the baseball season, they're hoping to have things together here and playing games at the end of July. So now at this point, I have a month to kind of figure out what we're going to do with our shows, where I'll be, how all that stuff's going to go. And so the focus kind of changes now from, make content to get ready for the hurricane.
Oh yeah. Geez. Yeah. So, you'll be for sure busier than ever. Cause I'm, putting out all that content, talking to people like, hey, how's it feel being back? Are you feeling good? Like, you ready?
Well, that. I mean, just I think it's 60 big league games in 66 days.
Wow.
So, and especially if I'm working here from the home studio, I've already volunteered to do all 60. So,
you got your work cut out for you for sure.
It could be busy. Yeah, it'll be highly watched and highly appreciated, but highly busy too. So
yeah, that's awesome.
It's what we sign up for, that part of it,
Yeah, definitely. I was kind of curious, as far as, obviously you said, we all know the Sharks season is done. One thing I was kind of thinking of is, like, as far as covering Sharks and A's, is there ever like an overlap where like they send, like, is there priority towards one team or the other if there's a game on the same day? I don't know if that's even happened, but like how does that happen through like the network?
That has happened. That happens almost on an annual basis, especially with the Sharks playoffs going as long as sometimes they have. 2016 when they went to the Stanley Cup final, I didn't get into A's mode until probably the third week of June, because the final was, I think, ended on the 15th or 16th. So yeah, and what ends up happening is, especially even last year, as the Sharks went to the third round, pretty deep, right? I mean, that's an extended period of time. I would literally go back and forth. If the Sharks play tonight, that's what I'm doing. The playoff situation usually takes precedent.
Okay. That makes sense.
The team that's in the, and it's no knock to the other team.
Of
like
course.
the A's have they're both equally potent right now. It's not like one is more important than the other, but the team that's in the playoff situation usually is prioritized by work for me. I don't make the choice. Sometimes I can maybe influence them on, going to where the bigger crowd is in the more important game, but usually that's already established. And then there have been, I would say, especially in the last 5 to 6 years, I would say there's been at least 7 or 8 times where I've done doubleheaders. Usually an afternoon baseball game and a night hockey game all in the same day.
Wow.
So
that sounds very tiring. You got some throat coat tea or something that you're sipping on in between games or something, like a lot of talking.
You get a second wind. I mean, the real crazy thing is when you're getting ready to do this second pregame show and you're like, wait, I should be on my way home right now. But you know what? I kind of take it as a badge of honor, to be like, look, the fact that I get to be full time like that on 2 teams and the teams that I grew up loving and watching. Mm-hmm. The only really other one that I especially grew up watching was the Warriors. And there's just no way that times out, that hockey and basketball overlap. So to basically have year round 2 teams that, I don't have to fake it. I'm when I get that assignment, like I literally volunteer for it. Sometimes they're even like, hey, no, just take a day off do this. No, you know what? April, well, not this April, but usually April's, May's, and even June's are go time. That's when I crank, so I don't mind it at all.
Interesting. It just pains me every time I think about it that the Sharks are out. I mean, how their season went makes sense. But going into, I think, what is it? I think July 10th or something is when I think practices for the teams and stuff are going to kick back in place. I was trying to find a start time, but I don't even think they have it all figured out. But going off of that, like, do you have kind of a team that you're kind of pushing for to take it all? Or?
Well, yes, but only for individual reasons.
I think I have an idea, but I'm gonna wait and hear what you got to say.
Well, you guys know should I start with the runners up, because if Joe Pavelski were to get an opportunity in Dallas, I'd be pretty pumped.
That would be
Brendan Dillon with the Washington Capitals, I'd be pretty pumped. You see the trend here, former Sharks, right? Like
yeah, right.
Barclay Goodrow in Tampa, I'd be pretty stoked for Goody, but I think the ultimate one is Patrick Marleau and the Penguins.
Yep, I have that written down right here. That's my pick. solely just for Marleau to just bring back a cup. So. Totally.
Yeah, no, and I think too, that's a predictable answer by me, but it's obvious the reasons why, and I think his age and his situation, and do I think he'll come back for another season, which, by the way, the next season could start in December or January. That's way off now. But I mean, it just goes to show you like how much of these critical months and years these guys are going to miss just because of the situation and hockey's not around. So as if getting old weren't difficult enough for a guy like Joe Thornton or Patrick Marleau, now this to complicate, their final opportunities. So, and that's the other thing too, not to sidetrack here, but, I think we, as a broadcaster, people want to hear me talk about sports and they get excited to hear that hockey will be back. And look, I hope it is for the sport and for people's entertainment value. And the same thing with baseball, which is probably even farther along in its planning and execution. But what I go back to most is if our world doesn't dictate that sports should be around. Like if all this takes some serious turns for the worse or doesn't get any better, or players are all of a sudden really in jeopardy and they're making the situation worse, I mean, it is painful to think about worst case scenarios, and that here we are like, yeah, let's do it. Let's see him. I side more on the human interest of these guys than I do needing to see, game 77 of the season between, pick two teams, Colorado and Las Vegas. No offense. I mean, it's normally I love it, but right now, like, it's something in the back of my mind that it should be in the back of all of our minds, that none of this is normal. And, like, sports are hard. They're hard to really, really, really focus on at this juncture completely.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, I totally agree. There's a bigger thing to worry about than who's going to take the Stanley Cup, and, who's going to, as far as baseball is concerned. I mean, my brother Nick knows more about the baseball world than I do, but, just there's more to worry about, there's the safety of the teams and the
I think to me, the family aspect of it is it's one thing for a healthy hockey player to go, do their thing, but then, like, what's the family situation? First off, are you saying that you're supposed to be away from your children and wife for 3 months, or, like, you're asking, and every athlete has a totally different life scenario. Some are the full bachelors and they couldn't give a rip. Like, hey, let's go. Like, if I get this, I'll be confident to fight it. And it's unfortunate because I hope they don't spread it. But a lot of guys are looking at, and I know 2 baseball players. I won't name them specifically, but one just had a child, and one is about a month and a half away from being a father for the first time. So, like, I mean, what is that situation like? I know it's rough, but they have some difficult decisions to make and some worrisome months ahead.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that, and, like, kind of considering, I think NASCAR back. I think they were doing like 30,000 people. So. Obviously the UFC's back, but they're doing no one, just commentators and their crew and whatnot. And I was kind of just curious. I'm like, for hockey, like, they're not doing any fans, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, like, I'm kind of thinking, like, what I've heard with the UFC, it's changed the dynamic of it so much, because you can hear absolutely everything. You can hear the hits harder. You can hear the the blood and snot coming up their nose, and all the
cussing
crazy
probably
stuff.
too.
Oh geez, I can imagine. Yeah. So, like, I'm trying to think, like, as far as hockey goes, I mean all sports pretty much, there's a big crowd presence, and that drives a lot of the gameplay. I mean, when the Shark Tank kind of turns up and the volume gets loud, I'm sure that impacts the players. So I'm curious to watch a game and see if there's going to be a different dynamic. Like, because if, you hear a normal big check, even when there's a crowd, it sounds big.
Oh, yeah.
You can hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but then there's no crowd, no music. You hear that might be intimidating. I'm excited to see that, but also
you're
curious.
You're right.
Oh, geez.
It's I think what it is, though, is, like, you'll hear athletes talk about that, the fan factor, and there's no question. I mean, even game broadcasters. I talked to Glenn Kuiper, who calls the A's games for us on TV a couple weeks ago, and he was saying, look, you wouldn't even believe, but even for a guy like me, when somebody hits a home run and it's important, like, I feed off the crowd. Like, my call is better because of that, and that's just a performer in a different way. But I think the point is like, again, going back to the severity of this continuing, pandemic. I mean, that's like me saying, well, I can't host a show as well from home because I'm not in a studio and there's not all the bells and whistles, and you know what I'm saying? Right. It's just, everybody's going to have to be uncomfortable a little bit from the athlete perspective. Now, you're right, from the viewer perspective. I mean, if you've already watched some, like, English Premier League soccer games, it's weird. Somebody scores a goal, and it's just like you can literally hear the hand clapping from the the sideline.
I heard it might be what you're talking about. I forget, soccer, I believe, but they were, like, overdubbing, like, crowds and, like, putting in
EA
images
Sports.
Yeah, okay. I forget what it
EA
was.
Sports gave NBC Sports Network, I think. And I think what they were doing, this is pretty cool. I may be wrong, but I think, they gave fans the option so that if you wanted the artificial fan noise, which
Oh,
is so like, it's just the soundtrack of soccer,
yeah.
especially, right? The chants and all that stuff. And so they gave fans on TV that version. And then if you wanted to
Interesting.
watch it without the added in, sound effects of crowds, you could stream it and it would be just the natural sound. So
Interesting. I didn't.
yeah,
That's crazy.
I
I
don't
didn't
know
know
yeah,
if
that
it's a
I'd
was.
cool
like more.
idea. It's
Yeah.
actually, for the purists out there.
I wonder if they'll do that for hockey because I might have to turn that on. I don't know.
Maybe there's always a SAP channel, which is like an embedded channel in a lot of TVs, and it's a feature not used much anymore than it used to be in the old days of like cable and even picture in picture. But there is another way to do it, to send you a different audio channel. But
Interesting. I
yeah,
didn't
who
know that.
knows? They'll figure out a way.
Yeah. And then kind of going off of like, empty crowd and players, being cautious and, obviously they don't want to catch the corona.
The
But
Rona.
kind of going off of like, and I by no means know actual data and stuff. It's just kind of hearing from podcasts and online, which who knows what's right, what's wrong. But a lot of these athletes, they'll get it and they'll recover, which I think is, I mean, it makes sense. They're these crazy specimens of, just crazy
Freaks of
talent
nature.
and all that. And they'll, if they catch it, hopefully they don't get it too bad, but they'll, recover. But I think the main concern for me thinking about it would be coaches, all the staff, and everyone
Oh
who
yeah.
isn't this like premier professional athlete who's like, training every day, instead they're back sharpening skates and stuff. So I think that would be the real concern as far as like what I think. I think the players will be fine, but as far as like the coaching staff and everyone else, I think that's where like the real worry would be.
I would tend to exactly agree with you, and especially on a couple of things. The age of a baseball manager is closer to the age of demographic that
Hmm.
doesn't do as well with COVID-19. And to your other point too, most fans only consider the athletes they see on the field, maybe the umpires, and maybe, if you're lucky, the coaching staffs. And
Yeah.
I'm talking baseball, I guess, specifically. But how
Oh, yeah.
about inside a clubhouse? How about inside a hockey dressing room? Like when I'm done sweating through all my clothes,
Oh,
like
yeah.
they just throw it in a cart,
Oh, yeah.
and that cart somebody has to go through all that. And even when I'm talking, even during complete healthy times, it's a matter of like germs it's inevitable, and they do what they can in gloves. But I mean, can you imagine now?
Oh, yeah.
And those people are not of the physical stature. And I'm not stereotyping. I'm just saying none of us are the physical stature of an athlete. So none of us can fight it off. But what happens if you have, somebody with existing health issues, and now, they're put in that situation? So I agree. It's less about the actual athletes. Although I think one of the main things you might find, if, when, and wherever sports resume, is that all of a sudden you're going to see your favorite player missing a game. And there is going to be widespread instant speculation. Where's player X? Uh-oh, they
Right.
were in there yesterday. What does this mean? And look, they could have sprained their ankle, or they could just be feeling unwell and are taking the ultimate precaution. So we're going to have speculation city,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm going to try and not be part of it on TV, and just say it for what it is. But I think it's going to be so inappropriate for people to start, did he get COVID? Did she get COVID? How
Oh,
did this,
yeah.
it's going to be rampant the moment any team or player is affected.
And especially with, I don't know how other sports and baseball, maybe Nick can chat about it, but, hockey, I think I always get kind of frustrated when like someone gets hurt and then like
Mhm.
lower body injury. It's like, well, tell me what it is. Like, what happened? Like, did he break his like femur, or is it a sprained ankle? Lower body injury. Like, oh, geez,
Well,
thanks.
Yeah, they never
But maybe that
specify.
might be more specific now to
Well,
clear it
and
up.
you're familiar with, you know why that is, right? Why they're so vague.
I mean, I think I do, but for maybe myself to see if I'm right or wrong, and for people listening, maybe you can give some insight.
It's sad, but it's probably true. If I know that you are coming off an ankle injury,
You're gonna whack at that ankle.
I'm gonna make sure that I go extra hard in making you work that ankle, or that look, let's be honest, physically go after you. If I see you in the corner and there's a loose puck, I'll play the puck, but I'll probably play you too. And or if I know it's an elbow, or if I know it's a shoulder, I'm going to make sure that I finish that check like through the glass,
Yeah.
and not make it. You don't even have, the thing is you don't even have to make it dirty to affect that player. Now, what I think is interesting is translate that to the NFL. Like the NFL literally gives you a practice report throughout the week of what players participated, which players didn't, for how long, and also what their exact injury is. And I mean, football, you could straight tackle a dude if and go right after the elbow or the ankle or the shoulder or whatever, So it's amazing. Hockey has that that culture of being a little bit afraid of, if I tell you what my injury is, you might target me. So that's the background behind that. And let me just say this, from knowing these guys well enough, the hardest part is that a lot of the many of the injuries go completely undisclosed. So let's say we're talking about player X who's having a bad season. Mm-hmm. Well, did you know that they were basically skating on one leg the entire time? Maybe not.
Good point. Huh. I never think too critical because, I grew up playing hockey, so I kind of know, obviously when the levels I was playing at, like no team is going to care like if they're missing a player, like it's not that big of a deal. But I never thought too critically when someone gets hurt or they're out or scratched or whatever. I'm not like, oh, well, what the heck's going on? Like all that. But it's good to kind of think about, like, sometimes just because they're out, whether they say it's poor performance or whatever, that there could be an underlying injury.
Oh yeah.
So I never think about that.
I'm telling you that it's just, like I said, it's frustrating for me to sometimes know the real truth. And I will say it. It's not a secret. I've said it before that a lot of times I'm aware of things that just you find out because you're kind of in the circle of information or trust, or somebody will tell you directly, and that's it. Like I know it, and it helps me to know it so that I'm not so critical of them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know it, they know it, but they would rather not have anybody else know it. And so yeah, like I said, it's hard to watch people struggle through something that's holding them back, and they can't share it.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's see here. One of these things I was trying to think of. Let's see here. Wow, I totally had my notes blown over for a second. Jeez.
Hey, I've been in that spot. I've been in that spot before, and all of a sudden you get the hot sweats, and you're like, where am I in this?
Yeah.
You don't have to. I know that feeling.
Oh yeah. Hey, still new to this. Doing all right here. So there was one thing I did as much research as I could, going on the socials for you, and I checked. Oh, nothing bad. I went on the LinkedIn, the fun place that is super fun to go. It's the best social media out there that no one uses.
That's another one I got to get on, by the way. See, now you're just putting more stuff on my stuff on my plate here.
Come on, Danny. But I know, right? One thing I saw in it, I just would never expect it, but something about that you're certified commercial pilot.
This is true.
And certified flight instructor.
That is also true.
So I'm curious, like broadcasting pilot.
How did that happen?
Where's the what's going on? Like, do you fly the Sharks? Like, what's the goal here? Like, I'm just kidding.
I have been in the front of their plane a couple times, and that was really fun. In fact, once was when we went to Europe in the chartered 747. That was awesome. Quick background. When I was finishing college, I just all of a sudden got the itch to get into aviation. I don't have a family. Usually, like a lot of things, if you have a family member into it, they'll kind of get you into it, whatever. I just had the itch to go take flight lessons and see what it was all about. And my motto was, I'll do this, because it's a costly and a time-consuming adventure. And I said, I'll just do this until, if I don't like it, I'll just stop. And you can, which is fortunate. Next thing I know, I'm I'm a private pilot. Next thing I know, I get my instrument rating. Next thing I know, I'm a commercial pilot. Next thing I know, I'm a flight instructor and I'm teaching other people how to fly. So that was over the course of, 2003 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7. And then in 2008 is when I became an instructor and started teaching. Now, how did I have time for that? My last job ended in 2007. I was working for Channel 2 and Channel 36 in Oakland and San Francisco, and I was doing a high school sports show, and we all got laid off at the end of that year, which was very unfortunate. And I was chip on my shoulder, frustrated, and just said, "The hell with TV for right now." And the recession was just kind of starting to kick in, and it was not looking good. But I just said, I need to do something right now that I can, obviously get paid for, but something else that I love. So I already pretty much had the commercial certificate, and I had a lot of the hours and requirements. So I said, you know what, let's just go do the instructor training. And I did. It was still, honestly, I'm saying it because you asked, but if you asked me, about all this stuff, but among personal accomplishments, this probably ranks the highest, more than any television thing I've ever been able to do. Or it was hard and super rewarding. So I love it.
I mean, like, I couldn't even imagine going through that. Like, I have no problem flying. I fly all the time. But just thinking about being in charge of a big flying object with people and teaching people how to do it properly, that's a lot of responsibility. So I can understand how that would be a big, check mark off the good old list.
Take your favorite 16-year-old or like 15-year-old, right? Like if you have a cousin or relative or whatever, and think about teaching them how to drive, and then just transpose that into an airplane. Where there's pluses and minuses here. There's a lot more going on in an airplane, but you're sitting on that right seat, although you do have your set of controls on the right side of the airplane. So that was, I'll tell you right away, the phrase "my airplane" is commonly used in flight instructing, and basically it means that the student lets go. I got us from here. I'm going to take over for a little bit, and sometimes it's to get you out of a hairy situation, but most times it's to demonstrate something. And in all reality, at the point of being an instructor, you've already been through enough and seen enough, usually, so that you're 4 steps ahead of everything that's going on anyway. You'll let a student get into a precarious situation, but not a dangerous one.
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember how old I was. I was young, maybe 16. Like I said, I don't know. Just guessing here. I think a family friend had. I don't know what it's called, but I think a prop propeller plane, just 2-seater. There's a lot of different kinds. Probably like a Cessna 152, or there's a lot of them out there. He owned a hangar, and he just had a couple planes, and he took me and my brothers up separately, and at some points he'd be like, "All right, grab the controls and let us kind of like." I don't know if he was like still holding on or not, because I couldn't see him, but just having that feeling. I mean,
right?
I can't imagine if I would do it again. I would do it again for sure. But as far as doing commercial and stuff, I'm like, oh goodness, that's scary. So props on that. That's really cool.
Thanks,
I saw that,
man.
And I was like, I had to ask.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, honestly, it's something I love, and it's equally, if not maybe sometimes more of a passion than. And I think people know how I feel about sports. I hope it comes across, but I'm equally that way to aviation. And you're right about the control thing. I used to do something called demo flights. We have a customer that would just come in and, kind of like me at one point, was thinking about taking lessons. And so we take them up for usually about 45 minutes and let them have the controls if that's something they desire and feel comfortable with. And the young people who had played plenty of flight simulator, they are very good right off the bat at the hand-eye coordination and the stick skills, as we call it. But I would also tell you that there are some people who are so timid, and they think that the moment they touch that control wheel that the plane's going to fall out of the sky. It's literally it's like taking you to the an empty Valley Fair parking lot, Okay. You could hit that post over there, but we're going to see it coming, and you're not there's plenty of room to roam out here. We're going to be fine. But yeah, people are usually kind of timid. on the controls. So sometimes, yeah, there's a couple things either with rudders or a trim wheel that I can do that you wouldn't see, that I could help you kind of like turn the plane or go up or down, to kind of aid you along in making it happen,
Yeah. Do you as far as like, I mean, do you have like your own plane? Like, do you think about getting your own? Like, how do you go often? Like,
I do not own a plane right now. I have access to a couple of them, but to be perfectly honest, the last 2 years specifically have been very difficult finding the right time. And I like a nice day to fly. I'm obviously instrument rated and can fly in a lot of conditions. I'm pretty high personal minimums of what I would do in certain situations, but it just a lot of things don't time out as much lately. But I am still licensed to teach. And I think, like anything, what would matter most to me is if I got back into a teaching situation anytime soon. I would definitely want to spend a month or two to go really back over all the basics, all the bare bones stuff, just to freshen up, and also the things that have changed in the 12 years since I did it regularly.
yeah.
But it doesn't. I'll say this: it in the same way that I could jump in a stick shift car right now. You know what that is, right?
Yeah.
I know. I'm messing with you. I heard silence. In the same way, I could jump in a stick and drive that around with no problem, even though I haven't had a stick since like 2000. Flying, you'd want to get the feel back, and it might feel disjointed at first, but it comes back. So
Cool. Yeah, I found that like just like when I was talking about the Altamont beer, it was that and the pilot stuff. I was like, oh, okay. Like my eyes widened up. I was like, what?
yeah.
Not stuff. Yeah.
By the way, the beer I wanted to tell you about earlier, Hella Hoppy. Have you tried that one?
Oh,
I think that's a double IPA. And then
so.
they also Altamont also makes one called Scarcity, or I think that's it. And I think that's a triple IPA.
Let's see here. My brother's pulling this up here. Oh, yep. I've had the Hella Hoppy. Ooh.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one's got some kick to it. And Scarcity, I think they only make on rare occasions. But if you get your hands on one of those, put a seatbelt on. Well, not in a car, but
yeah.
Just strap in essentially before you finish that one off.
I mean, there's a good reason why at least where I'm buying it, they only sell them in a 4-pack. So
got it.
So it makes a lot of sense. But I mean, sometimes, like honestly, probably, well, not right after this because it's still, it'll be. Actually,
noon yet.
By the time I get done editing this and the image to post about, like it's probably I might have to go pick up something,
Yeah, I mean, though let's call it the weekend. As soon as we're done here with this, it's the weekend.
Oh
so
yeah. And there's what is it called? I wrote it down because I kept forgetting. I haven't tried it yet, but if they have it there, I might have to get it just because you do work with the A's. But was it green collar, right?
Yeah, I've had. It's been a while. I did have that before. That's a good. I feel like they made that specifically for a tailgate. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, you got the demographic and people like beer and the A's, and just slap those colors on it with a strong IPA, and it's an IPA, right? I think.
I don't know. I don't think green collar is.
Okay.
If you have the computer, you may want to look that. You may.
Yeah.
You want to get the info on that. I don't remember it being an IPA. I think it was Pilsner.
Okay.
Maybe not. Anyway. I highly recommend Altamont beers. I just went and picked up a big handful of Fieldwork. They have a location in East Bay and San Ramon, also in Berkeley. So those two are for just large scale consumption. Yeah, those are good.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look those up. Yeah, I love strong beers. I definitely, when the shelter in place thing all happened, I was just, I mean, I'd say like the first like week and a half, I was just straight couch potato, like just bumming around.
Absolutely.
And I one night decided to just get like a 6-pack, and I watched the Game 7 versus Vegas. And it was great. Like I knew exactly, obviously, what was going to happen, when goals were going to happen, everything.
Right.
Oh, but I was just by myself, just having a good old time with a couple beers and like just like when another team scored, I like not hard, but I punched like the couch, and I was like, no, and it was just great. So I might have to rewatch it, but
my 2 rules self-imposed at the beginning of all this in March were number 1, do not have beer and ice cream or any alcohol and ice cream on the same night. I just felt like, like alternate at least. And then the other one was to avoid having alcohol on consecutive nights. Both those rules have been broken more times than I would care to admit. And I guess the thing is for me too, especially with the beer, and my wife will want me to pass along. We're being responsible here. We're not having like 8 of them. Just, a nice casual drink. But I think it's being home at like nighttime, which is something I'm not usually, I'm usually working in the evening hours. So I find it way more like appealing to be like, hey, dinner and this big old crowler over here to take care of,
Geez.
So
yeah, lots more time to be like, I could have a beer.
It's more appropriate than like 10:30 in the morning when I'm usually at home, so.
I don't know. I mean, if you start that new, podcast, you might have to set a day aside to crush some beers in the morning and record some gnarly, what do you call it, brocast or something?
Oh, the bro show. I was one of the other ideas, especially after I did that one episode with Casey a while back, was to just call the podcast Beers with Brodie.
Love it. That's another one.
And just like that would be the point of it. It's harder now, obviously, for a lot of different reasons. My initial thought was, hey, take the portable recorder, go to a brewery and meet up with one of your buddies or whatever.
That's a great idea.
That's just for the time being, that's rather impossible.
Yeah, right.
So
it's different sharing a beer via Skype or something. It's not the same.
Yeah. I guess I could just do a podcast called like Brodie is Drunk and just fire away, like have one and then hit record and see what happens. But
instant hit.
I'd probably think the jokes are so funny and just, I don't know that anybody really wants that.
Well, so. I mean, what I thought was great of like the episode you did where you guys were drinking the Altamont beers is you guys were talking baseball. I had no idea who you were talking about, what you were talking about, but it was like the, back and forth banter. It was like seeing different, although you were talking sports, it was a different side that I don't normally hear or see when you're actually, on the clock working. So I think, like this one, we're not just straight talking, hammering down on sports. I think it's, people kind of want to know, different stuff that they wouldn't normally hear you talk about on air for the Sharks or the A's. So things like that I find pretty valuable. So.
No, completely. I think it's like a weird fine line sometimes of, people don't want you to, like, how should I say it? They don't want to know you too much, I think.
Right. Yeah.
They don't need to know your everything of the day.
Oh yeah.
But I do think to your point of like sharing a little bit of who you are and where you come from and what you're all about. I mean, things you stand for. I think especially in 2020, it only helps it just helps your background. I'm not going to say helps your brand because that just sounds so it just sounds too much.
I feel,
But it just kind of helps people relate. And I've always tried to just be a little transparent and trying to share a little bit of life and background. And like I said, just I think I'm just a normal dude. And most athletes that you cover are the same way. And first like handful of years of me working was just kind of realizing getting in situations and talking to people in in-depth conversations, like, talk to them like people, like they're going through life the same way you are,
Exactly.
So.
Right on. Oh yeah. So I reached out to a few of my friends because I wanted to, I had some of my notes, but I kind of wanted to ask some of my friends that are, well, most of them are Sharks fans, but one of them, he's also, loves baseball. But I wanted to kind of ask if they had any questions, and I have a few written down.
Cool.
Don't feel like you need to, elaborate like crazy. You can just give a quick fire answer if you want.
Okay.
So this first one, I got to give him a little intro, sort of. So his name is Jake, but he told me you can just introduce me as I have a Joner guy.
I know that guy. Yeah,
Yep.
he's yeah, in hockey we would call him a beauty. He's a beauty.
He's a beaut. Yeah, I went to high school with him, and
Oh, did you?
yeah, and obviously I see him all the time on whoever posts it. I think the Sharks have actually posted him a few times, and seeing him on TV, and I'll text him like, "Hey, bro!" Like now it's
Yeah.
now like I think after like the third time, like I was like, "Oh, he's like, hey guys, like you're gonna see me, like they know where I'm
He's a
sitting."
thing. He's a thing now. Like
Yeah,
you know,
he's a thing for
it's
sure.
not a one-off. He's a thing. Like
Oh yeah,
he's got a thing and he is a thing. Yeah.
man, what a life that is. It's insane. But anyways, so what his question is, so he wants to know your opinion on certain players possibly retiring due to the coronavirus, and he brought up Joe Thornton, kind of considering, I'm thinking where he's coming from is such a big time off, players that are up there in age, do you think you're going to see some people kind of taking a back seat, retiring, or having that thought come up more present?
I think if the next NHL season, doesn't get underway until, halfway through 2021, there's two sides. I'll be quick with it. There's two sides to this. The extreme rest could either give these guys the opportunity to refresh like never before. So it's not like they're wearing down with age. They're kind of resting with age. But yeah, that I mean, just the unknown. It's an impossible question to know the answer to yet. But I definitely think the more months that everything gets pushed back, certainly to a certain degree, the more difficult it will be for any older player to have to make a decision. So it's possible, but I also know that two guys, specifically Joe and Patty, will do everything they can, and in their mind, as of right now, they've got multiple years on their minds. So,
Oh yeah, definitely.
but my expectation versus reality, who knows? But the way that they go after it, they've got multiple years on their mind.
Interesting. Let's see here. My buddy Brian asks, what are the biggest differences between analyzing baseball and hockey, and kind of maybe a pro and con for both? Obviously, the obvious is they're totally two different sports, obviously. But
Well,
yeah, duh. But
kind of. I mean, there's a large device used to strike another device. No,
yeah,
I think you know what it is for me is baseball has so many numbers attached to it that instantly the average viewer can digest. Guy went 2 for 3 today. You know what that means. He had a pretty good day at the plate. This pitcher went 8 innings, gave up 2 hits. You don't even need to watch the game for me to really translate. Okay, that guy had a good start. Hockey, it has advanced metrics, but if I drop Corsi on a pre or post game show, I don't know that most people are going to instantly pick up on that or relate to that. Hockey just flat out has less tangible stats,
okay.
Besides the obvious goals, assists, points, plus minus, even, time on ice or, different power play, special team stuff. But the point being is that it's so much harder to say, Timo Meier had a really good game today. I know it's not going to show up on the stat sheet. You really have to explain certain shifts and get into the intricacies. Like I said, versus baseball, it's cut and dry who had a good game and who had a bad game or rough day. So that's probably the biggest difference is just translating it. And I tend to, the one thing I'll never want to do in either situation is be the expert. Our analysts are the experts. They played, they coached, they have the professional background. My job is just to present what's out there and what viewers are thinking about and talking about, and to really inform and entertain. So I never try and analyze myself, should have done this, should have done that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I have no I have no credibility in that department.
Right on. I think my brother, he's got a question.
Yeah, I do. I actually thought of this like 20 minutes ago.
Ooh.
Nice.
Has broadcasting made you a bigger fan? Because you said you grew up in the Bay Area and you're a fan of the Sharks and the A's. So has broadcasting made you like a bigger fan of those two teams or of like hockey and baseball in general?
I think whether it's broadcasting or whether you work for a team or you're in media in general, broadcasting, at least for me, has allowed me to see the entirely different side of the business that most fans maybe are aware of, but they don't have a full depth of what it's like, and business decisions and the way a team will strategize and promote themselves, and even players. I think one of the cool things is over time to really get to know people that you thought you knew from before, or you thought you had an inclination of who they actually are. And then when you get to meet them and you find out, yes, they are that good of a person. That's like, it's a weird thing. And I still get it to some extent when I, come across somebody or I heard about them and we have a good chat and we, keep a relationship going. So I would say that's one thing that's opened up for me is the teams. I think I've always been passionate about, the teams and wanting them to do well and knowing their history and just being invested in all these years. So I don't know if there was even room for growth of me feeling closer to the teams. I feel like that's always been strong, but I think it's more about, learning the players and their journey and who they are. And like I said, and sometimes you're going to come across a guy that you really liked as a player, and it turns out they may not be your favorite person on or off the ice, on or off the field, whatever. And it's kind of like, oh, and I guess that's the business side of it I was talking about, is that you're just exposed to a lot more than ever before.
It makes sense.
Right on. So I got one more from a friend, and then I have one that I'd like to kind of close off with. But
cool.
This one, and this he said for the Sharks, but this can very well be for the A's as well. But he asked, which number would you be if the Sharks sign you? You can also apply that to the A's, of course.
Jersey number?
Yeah.
Number 6. I've always had the fascination or the connection to that. I think my dad passed it on to me when little league days. I've always just kept 6, and it just feels like a good number. And no Shark in recent years has worn it.
I don't think so.
And Bob Melvin wears it for the A's. Oh. Funny story. Through the team, I had him get me an authentic Kelly Green jersey, the one they wear on Friday night.
Okay.
And when I got it through the equipment manager, Steve Vucinich, he said, "What number?" And I said, "Oh, gotta be 6." And he gives me the look like, come on, Bo Mel, come on, you can't just take the manager's number. I was like, I'll talk to him about that, on. So yeah, no, it's 6 for just, I guess, history's sake.
Just your number.
So, that's it.
Your
yeah.
number. I mean, like for me, I think I started off as number 8, and then randomly I was like, 42 sounds good. So like,
okay.
For most of my, if you even want to call it hockey career, I was 42 up until, 16 when I tried out for a juniors team in Kansas. Always. So 42. I don't know why, but just
you'd have a slight issue with that in baseball due to the fact that it's retired across the sport for Jackie Robinson.
Of course, so, yes.
So your major league career, when you get there, you're gonna have to divert plans a little bit. You're gonna have to have that concession.
I'll have to sit on that one for a little bit.
Joel Ward. That's the reason he's 42.
I know,
he's a great guy.
I miss him for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Ordo's, and you know what? Here's the best part. He's coming. He will be back. I can almost guarantee it. I don't want to speak for him, but in some way, shape, or form, I think he'll be back in the hockey world. He's doing the dad thing right now, but I think he'll be back in hockey sometime soon. I think.
I can agree with that. Kind of just to close this out a little bit. For anyone listening that maybe is going to school currently or wants to maybe become a sports broadcaster or whatever, maybe even just a sports podcast or anything, do you have kind of any little nuggets of advice that maybe you can give someone to kind of, either inspire them to do it a little bit more, or like maybe something like that they could do to, I guess, get more into it?
I would say get out of the industry and do something else that can give you more free time. No, I in all seriousness, I do, and I think it's a piece of advice that I've started to give out a lot more in the last couple of years. It's just that When I was learning this stuff, you were learning to be one thing. You were learning to be a TV reporter, which, I mean, it's in sports, let's be honest. Journalism and reporting are there, but for the most part, people like me, journalism and reporting are not really part of my job. It's informing and entertaining is what it is. Okay. So, because I think journalists are people doing actual legitimate, like, uncovering and difficult journalistic jobs. That's not what I'm doing. Talking about hockey or baseball. But don't be pigeonholed into just being one thing. Don't be a radio person. Don't think you're just going to be a writer or have one background and just be one faceted. You pretty much need to be a jack or a Jill of all trades coming into this industry right now, because the jobs are going to require it. You're going to get more opportunities because of it. It's to not be great at one thing and just stick to that. And that's really what I've even tried to do in the last, 10 plus years at CSN and NBC is to write more things for our website, is to get into podcasting. It's to try and be good on social platforms. And I don't know what colleges and schools are teaching right now. I would also tell you that your experiences in college are important, but getting an internship and getting a real taste of what the actual business is like is equally vital. Making connections, figuring out people that you like, and hoping to learn from them and impart their skills and tactics. But it's just to not go down one road and think that that's what you're going to be, because the way things are and the way things are going, you really have to. You basically have to come with a toolbox to the job and pick out your tools for that day and use them and be good using all of them, rather than just kind of a one-trick pony. Because I mean, there are people in our business right now that just don't want, they're old school TV people. They want nothing to do with the new mediums and the new platforms. They don't understand them. They don't think they're important. But I think, you have a podcast, you get it. You have you got an Instagram, and you got a good little following on Instagram, by the way. It's like that. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff, though, right there, that the next wave of people in our business have to be ready for and understand.
Well said. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, and hopefully anyone listening can take all that and use that. Yeah, I think just because I'm super stoked on this episode, I might just put this thing out today.
Nice.
I'm gonna work on. You said you saw my Instagram. There's all these little things that I post for the certain episodes and stuff like that, and I like to create some artwork for it. So I might just pull some photo and do some cool artwork and all that, and send it to you. And when I get the links, I'll shoot them your way. And
no, I appreciate it. I'm glad we connected. I like I said, having the home studio, having it all be pretty set up, it's easy for me to do stuff like this. And I always do. I definitely don't say yes to everything, but I checked it out and I was like, hey, this guy seems like I like what he's doing here. So it's kind of fun, man. I think you're onto something good. And yeah, seriously, take your time as you build your show and you build your stuff. When you ever come across it, like equipment and how to make it sound different. And I'm telling you, the space you record in is equally important to any equipment you have. Sound insulation and also trying to get a room that's just not echoey.
Yeah, working on that for sure.
Yeah, do that before you go like even heavy into expenses of mics and equipment and stuff like that, because the road stuff you got's good, man. That'll get you pretty far.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said before, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with someone you basically met via tweet the other day. But yeah, thank you so much.
2020, let's be honest. That's what we do, man.
I know, right?
Shoot that my way. Send me or tag me on it on Twitter, especially, and I'll definitely share it with everybody. So
thank you, I appreciate that. And I guess you just have I guess it's about to be the weekend, since that's we deemed it after this podcast. It's the weekend.
That's right, man.
Official. Hope you have a great weekend with the family, and look forward to I guess baseball. I guess I'll start watching the A's more.
Potentially.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. You guys have a great weekend too. I'll be in touch down the road. All right.
Awesome.
Take care.
Take care.